Welcome to New Narratives, AI as a storytelling tool. I'm Jenny Elig, and my co-presenter today is Yang Slopek. Yang, say hi.
Hi everyone.
We're both learning experience designers here at Ardent Learning, and for the past year, we've been experimenting with generative AI, in part for fun, because it's fun to make pictures and see what kind of answers generative AI will give us. And also, we've been using it to help us on the job. And we're probably not alone in this. If you've seen Don Taylor's global sentiment survey, 21% of more than 3,000 respondents said that AI will be hot in the workplace L&D in 2024. So as our experimenting went on, we got a little more specific about how we chose to use AI. We wanted to use it to help us tell stories. As a design thinking expert, Yang knows that stories can enhance learning learning solutions in ways that other strategies can't. As for me, I came to the L&D space after decades as a reporter and editor, probably more than I want to mention here. So I know that stories can be really, really powerful. Today, we're going to go on a journey. During this journey, we're going to explore the power of stories. We're going to look at the components of a successful story, and we're going to look at some ways that you can use AI to support storytelling approaches in your learning designs. So, without much more ado, let's start off our story with a classic opening line. Once upon a time, there was a group of learning professionals. Now, storytelling gets a lot of hype as an effective approach for sharing information and experiences, and that hype is true. So, why do we use stories? Well, when we use them, we have an opportunity to transform dull content into engaging content. We encourage lasting learning retention. We humans are just kind of wired to remember facts and events better when they're delivered to us with a narrative flow. And in fact, there's lots of evidence and studies that prove that our brains do this naturally. We connect connections between events and facts to build this overarching narrative. We create lasting connections between the learner and the information. Stories just stick with us. And then finally, we can really convey nuance, both through the plot that we're giving them in our scenarios and language that really speaks to learners. Successful narratives have 4 components. Specifically, these are the 4 pillars. We call them the 4 pillars. Now, not every story that you have has to detail the 4 pillars, but you should be considering them and including them in your narratives as you're writing them. All right, so the first one is people. When we're talking about stories for learning experiences, people could be either the characters in our scenarios that we're using, and this can also be our learners. Then we've got places. This will be your story's context and the story's setting. So is it a corporate setting that you're writing for? Is it a classroom? I don't know. This is something that you'll want to answer before you get to writing your story. Purpose. This is our why. Why are we telling this story? Is it to inform? Are we teaching a process? How does it help our learners? And what are our learning objectives? And finally, we've got plot. This is what happens in your story. If you see this word and you get nervous and you're thinking, oh my gosh, my plot has to be super exciting. Not really. I think just by having a story out there, by framing the information that you're giving, that's plot enough. All right. So as we tell stories, we really should, like I said, be considering all of these elements so that we can provide a rich instructional story. All right. But before we can start to weave our tales, we've got to face off against some tough antagonists. These are and our villains. We, the fearless learning pros, are going to find ourselves against just blocked by these bad forces like, oh, an undefined audience and poorly drawn characters. We don't know enough about our audience to make them real and make our stories relatable. Got hazy settings. We just don't know enough about what their days look like, what kind of places they're working in. It just makes for something that can be really irrelevant. We've got muddled and murky plot lines. We might not have enough insight to create scenarios that are helpful to our learners. And then we're not fluent in what they need. Finally, we're just tired. So there has to be something that can help us fight against these challenges. I don't know what might that be, Yang? How can we fight against these bad forces?
So lucky for us, learning pros, our suffer is no more, or at least it's minimized, because this is where AI enters our tale like a well-meaning robot wizard to help us along our storytelling journey. So then let's meet AI. So this little well-meaning robot wizard you see on the screen is called AI. It's here to help us create engaging stories that meet the needs of our modern learners, whether we're using AI to create like scenarios, simulations, case studies, games, videos, backstories, news stories, or a design narrative that weave through the entire learning experience. Anything you want to write, any story, you name it. So this AI can help us through the plot twists and turns that earlier on Jenny told you not to worry about, but you probably are still worried a little bit anyway. So it can help us create happy endings and effective, memorable learning experiences for our audience. And even better, this AI can never get tired. Like you might exhaust a subject, but unlike us human, AI can just keep going. They just keep generating responses for you, unless you run out of your chat credits, but that's another story, right? So here's the twist. There's no real magic in it. Well, at least not the type where you use the stuff that you see and turn water into gold. So in this webinar, we're talking about generative AI specifically, and it's a category of AI and the structure behind programs like OpenAI ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, or Microsoft Copilot or Anthropic's Claude. So these programs generate text or images based on the input, and that is your input. So they learn from existing data and user input to create responses, summaries, or even entirely new content, including stories. So now that we met our AI, the robot wizard, let's see how it works, or in other words, how you can activate the robot. So I'm guessing that most of you have used some sort of generative AI so far, but just in case, here's how a generative AI, and on the screen, it's Microsoft Copilot. And this is how typically an experience goes for us learning designers. So we had our app of choice. It's anything, and we chose Copilot, as I mentioned, or another generator. And then you will find a user interface that looks similar to a chatbot. So you submit the prompt, you type it in, and then you watch as an unseen hand begins typing out the response for you. That is really cool, right? But here's the caveat. Use it wisely. And what do I mean by that? What do I mean by use it wisely? So as many stories have shown us, with great power comes great responsibility. So AI puts all the worst data into our hands. So it's important that we use it wisely. So first of all, you need to know the rules of the land. Ask yourself these questions and do your research. What are the AI laws and regulations in your country? What is your clients or stakeholders' view about AI? And then you need to develop your own AI philosophy or parameters or rules. So decide how you will use AI. Are you going to use it to do all your work? I don't know about that. Probably not a great idea, right, Jenny? So, but we can use it for pieces of the storytelling puzzle that we are trying to build, like the current work, the data analysis, and sparking ideas, brainstorming, the plot line, for example. That will keep you in the active role of the storyteller. And then you also need to pay attention to the information that you want to share with the AI. Is it confidential? Is there anything identifiable? Do you want to filter out and use a code name or anything to that effect? But most importantly, you want to keep the humans, your learners, and the characters front and center. Like, remember your learners and do reality checks, like check in to make sure that you're really speaking to your audience by interviewing them, listening to them. Like, even when you prompt the AI, you need to know what you want and have basic information about the learners. So don't get lost in the land of the robot wizard. Remember, it's just a tool for you to use. Like, you need to be in control of it. So let's continue on with our journey and check back in with Jenny.
Thanks, Yang. So far, we've explored the power of storytelling, the 4 pillars of storytelling, and we met a robot wizard that can help us. So now we're going to explore some tips for using AI, putting your robot wizard friend to work for you. But first, I think our story will work out a little better if we have a project. So let's make it something magical. And this is entirely not set up at all. We did not pre-rehearse this. Yang, what is your favorite mythical animal?
Well, it's unicorns and dragons. So what do you have for me?
This wasn't pre-planned. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so we've got the Unicorn Concern Company. This is a leader in building dream worlds for kids and helping adults relive happy memories. Unicorn Concern Company has come to us. They are our clients, and they are asking for some soft skills training for their employees. Excuse me. Now, before we even start writing, we want to go to AI and help it clarify and strengthen the 4 P's of our narrative. For example, people. AI is going to help us clarify our picture of our learners and the characters that we'll be basing on them. AI can help us speak their language and dial into specific challenges that they're going to face. It can help us stay focused on the audience. So it can give us an internal check too. We can be dialing in any sort of needs assessments, anything that we've learned directly from our stakeholders. And we can really use AI to bring in a bigger picture of the industry. Now, AI can go into places that we, as learning pros, might not be able to directly access. We might not have time to go out and visit all of the places that we need to or could visit to build that big picture. They can help us find our purpose, right? By analyzing trends across the industry, across the internet, they can help us whittle down the learning objectives. They can help us really find our purpose. So we might have a purpose like, oh, we need soft skills training on time management. We need to focus on time management. Well, AI can help us divide up such a big topic like that. And then finally, AI can help us gain inspiration for our story through outlines and plot development. It can help us divide up the content, make sure that we're supporting those learning objectives as we go along. We can make sure we can use AI to help us find strategies and use strategies that stimulate critical thinking, problem solving, and learner creativity in the context of these environments. So our unicorns don't need scenarios to be filled with rainbows and sunshine, but they do need stories that communicate the objectives. Now, let's explore some strategies and tips for prompts. Okay, think about a time when you had to do a task, when you had only vague, ambiguous information. How did that work out for you, Yang? Was that a good experience? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Not really.
No, I didn't think so. So like you, AI needs information to do its job well. You need to tell it who it's writing for. So you're going to need to specify your audience. You need to tell it what output you want. AI, generative AI, can produce so many different types of output. Um, present this in the form of to the end of your prompt, or start it with create a blank about blank. Specify the intended tones. Do you want it to be formal? Are unicorns formal? You read the client. Casual, informative, serious, humorous, professional. You can give it all sorts of tones and it's going to mimic them. Give it parameters and constraints. I can tell you from repeated experience that if you don't tell AI how many words that you want its reply to be, it will keep going. And then you have to go back through, in addition to your other editing, and whittle down a big block of text. Use do and don't to get the results that you want. For instance, do include character names. Do not include physical details. Now, let's put this to use. Let's say our soft skills training for Unicorn Concern Company will start with a module, as we mentioned, about time management. So the prompt could look like, in 100 words and using a corporate tone, write an engaging scenario about a unicorn who struggles with time management. And here's what we got. Meet Luna, a unicorn who works as a senior consultant at Sparkle Solutions. We should have specified our company name, huh? But to be fair, we did tell you at the beginning, you should strip company information. So I applaud AI for taking that classified unicorn concern client name out of there. So what are some other tips that we can be keeping in mind?
So for the second tip, I just want to share that our robot wizard is really driven by logic and filled by data. So it makes sense as quite literal. It's just like plugging words based on algorithms and all that. So when you're working with AI, make sure that everything is spelled correctly. And this is a little surprise that I will share right after this slide. I'll keep that. The second thing is to use commas to separate elements of your prompt. So this helps AI understand the individual components that you're requesting, especially with image creation. It helps improve the accuracy and effectiveness of your AI results. And word order also indicates the importance. So the earlier a word appears in the prompt, the more it is important to the AI system. That means you should not try to put the main message of your prompt at the end, right? Not bury it in the end, like put it at the beginning. And experiment with punctuation. So you can add weight to certain words by enclosing the word in parentheses. Adding weight to a word means it will help it stand out and influence the AI system more heavily. Why, if you're removing it with brackets, then it helps reduce the influence of that word. And this tip can be really useful when you are getting close to the desired result, but they're just like little extra fine tuning you need to get to the results that you exactly want. Another thing I want to share about this is use keywords. Like sometimes people get surprised by how succinct and short a prompt is, but how accurate the result is compared to like a very long and lengthy sentence. That because you need to just like use the keywords, make it important, and experiment with punctuations. So experiment with all of them and have fun. See what results you'll get. It might be a surprise for you. And as I promised, let's see what happens when we're not careful with our spelling. So the first time I tried this, I was like, okay, let's try misspelling a few words. So I put in the prompt in 100 words using corporate tone, writing an engaging scenario about a unicorn with a K who struggles with time management. And for the first time I tried, I just got scolded. It was just like, I'm sorry, I cannot write a scenario about a unicorn. I only write realistic scenario. If you're trying to say unicorn with a C, then please correct your spelling. Thanks for understanding, smiling emoji. That's how it scolded me. And then the second time I tried, I was like, how dare you? Like, you cannot scold me like that. So I tried for the second time and I did not get scolded this time. However, the results that I get wasn't accurate. It has nothing related to a mythical creature. It's all about time management. On that to say, it really based on the keywords and the input that you put in there. So pay attention to what you write and what you spell just to make sure that the AI understand it. I'm gonna pass it on over to Jenny for the third tip.
All right. So what happens if your robot wizard is feeling like he's feeling a little under-inspired? I shouldn't supply a pronoun. Our robot wizard, we won't assume any gender for him. So we add some variety. This means that it's time to mix things up. We're going to ask AI to adopt a role or persona. We use phrases like in the style of, or act as if, or you are in your prompt. For example, you may tell AI, you are an excellent writer of fiction bestsellers. That is a role I would like someday. This can shift the output in new and creative ways. Ask it to create several drafts in radically different styles. You might ask for a dramatic style, a straightforward style, personal style, and then pick which one works best. Mix and match. Play around the scenarios. You can ask for realistic workplace scenarios, and then flip the content over and have AI generate a story that highlights all the things that could go wrong in a situation. Um, Finally, you can change the perspective. Ask AI to tell the story from different points of view so you can deliver well-rounded learning that considers the bigger picture. To this point, our strategies have all been really useful, if I do say so myself. But Yang, is there one piece of guidance that people should keep top of mind?
I think the most important guidance that we can give you today is to iterate and refine. So your first output, like your first try, might never be perfect. So dig in. If you like a part of the story and you want more details about it, then ask the AI to elaborate on that part. And I'll share this in the example after this slide as well. And leverage the context. So we all know that AI use context, it remembers it. So build it on through tweaking your previous prompts, like reference the previous responses and maintain context within your conversation. That would really help the AI to generate and fine tune its answers to you. Then tell the AI to be honest and correct. Like when Jenny mentioned that take on the role of a professional writer or something like that. If you and I know that people keep saying that AI hallucinates. Yes, it does, but there's also a way to avoid that. So ask it to take on a role of a historian, for example, not a fictional writer. Or you can just put in your prompt and say, if you do not know the answer, just say you do not know, or do not answer if you can't find the most recent 2024 data, especially if it's a model that isn't connected to the internet, like ChatGPT or Anthropic's Claude. So Copilot connect to the internet. So it might give you a little more accurate information and references. But for other models, if it hallucinates, tell it not to. Because imagine like AI just has a lapse in memory like you, it will still try you to give you the best possible answer it can. It's just trying to please you. But if it produces incorrect or undesirable content at all, just tell it. So just to sum this up, think about working with AI as collaborating with a coworker on a project. You discuss, you go back and forth, you give guidance and feedback, you listen and ask questions. The only difference is this time your coworker is the robot wizard, AI, not Jenny sitting in a room with me, even though we did collaborate on this whole, presentation with all the images and stuff, but I still collaborate with AI and take it as a member of my team. So we have three members. It's Jenny, it's me, and the AI. So now let's see an example where we ask AI to use context and to dig in. So this time we try using ChatGPT and we ask it to write a story about unicorn and the importance of time management. And you can see in the prompt, I didn't specify how many words it should generate. So it feels free to give me a block of text. That's a lot, right? I should help in the parameter. So I skimmed through the content and I was especially interested in the wise word of the owl. Like my dear Sparkle, it give the unicorn a name, Sparkle now, not Luna anymore, because we didn't specify that. It's our fault. So the owl said, sorry, give softly, time is a precious gift, blah, blah, blah. And I just want to give my learners like a block of poems, like a poem or something memorable so they can remember the content. Because this is the key. This is what they need to remember. So I go back to that and use the second prompt to ask it to elaborate on the owl's words and make it a poem. So then it elaborate, dig deeper in, and give me a poem. As you can see, time is precious yet finite. And I won't read all these texts to you, but when we ask AI to elaborate on something, it does its job. It does it pretty well. So with this little sing-songy poem from the owl about time management, this part of your AI storytelling journey is coming to a close. And I'm gonna let Jenny help us wrap up here.
So now the characters in our story, me, Yang, and all you learning professionals who join us today will leave and go back to your day to day. But I hope our storytelling journey will stick with you, reminding you that storytelling is an effective way to create memorable learning experiences. Successful stories use the four pillars: people, places, purpose, and plot. AI is here to help you clarify and strengthen those four pillars and conquer the challenges of storytelling, but you must keep the human element front and center. And finally, well-written AI prompts will take you far, but the road to happily ever after is paved with iteration.